Whispers from the Maze, the third set of the Altered TCG, is coming very soon on June 6, 2025, and now with the marketplace and print on demand live, this is the best time to take a look at Altered TCG and see if this is a game that you want to get into. And we're going to start getting you a little excited with our spoilers today of Bumblebeet, an exciting new base Muna card with an out of faction in Ortis. And I'm going to be joined by my friend Jordan from the Fleeting Thoughts podcast to take a look at this card and tell you what we think of it. So let's jump right into it. What's up, everyone? It's Dan with Maindeck with Jordan again from the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. How's it going, Jordan?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you ready to listen, Jordan, to the whispers from the maze?
I am. These will actually be the first spoilers that I'll be seeing because I've been... Oh, no, sorry. That's a lie. There's a couple that I saw on the article, like splash arts, but I've been holding myself back to look at them until there's a bunch of them so I can get really excited about a bunch of different things at once. So these will be the first ones that I'm intentionally seeing. So
okay, so I mean, I think you've seen... You've maybe then seen the mechanic that, like, kind of the main mechanic that this uses, but maybe you haven't. So we'll see. This is going to be kind of exciting. So everyone, we have a spoiler today, which is base common rarity in the Muna faction, of course, because I'm a massive Muna fan. I'm really excited about this card because it does slot into the kind of stuff I love to do in Muna. So it's going to be a fun card to look at. And then we're going to look at common and rare, and then we're going to have the out of faction rare, which is in Ortis, and it's going to be, I think that's going to be very interesting. It's a weird, that's not really doing Ortis-y things necessarily, so it's kind of a cool one, But Jordan, you haven't seen this yet, so I'm going to show it to you right now, and I'm going to tell you that I think you are going to absolutely love the art and name on this card at the very least. Ready?
I'm excited. Hit me with it.
All right. This is Bumblebeet. Bumblebeet is an animal and plant character with 1 hand cost, 2 from reserve. It has 1/1/1 stats, so it's a good old 1-drop 1/1/1. Perfect card for just like filling space on a turn, kind of after Ewing your opponent, so to speak, but also still put some stats on the board. And it has this new exciting thing that's happening in Whispers from the Maze for people who are like Jordan and haven't looked at any spoilers. The one of the cool new mechanics is this idea that we have constant abilities in reserve, which is what the bottom box is. So while this is sitting in your reserve at noon, it's going to gain a boost until it has 2. And at that point, then it just holds onto those boosts and that's it. Jordan, what do you think about Bumblebeet?
You are correct. I love the art on this card and I love its name. This is excellent. Excellent theming. I think it's great. And the effect is exciting and interesting that they're doing more with reserve stuff. Knowing that it can build stuff up while it's just chilling there, and then for 2 costs, drop a 3/3/3 later on down the line seems quite potent in the later turns. It does a nice escalation of power. So like you said, turn 1, drop it for 1, or even later, 1 drops, as we've stated in the past, always excellent.
Yeah.
But this makes it potent in the beginning of the game because then you build it up and then later on for a measly 2, you drop a decent body somewhere.
Yeah, 2 for a 3/3/3 is not bad. I mean, I think the big cost to this is holding that spot in your reserve for a couple of turns, which might not sequence the way you want. But what if, Jordan, what if I told you it got even stronger out of the reserve than this? Let's look at the rare version of Bumblebeet. So the rare version of Bumblebeet trades the 2 cost from reserve for a 3 cost, but gains a really powerful line of text, which is when played from reserve, it gets anchored. So it's going to actually sit there for 2 turns minimum, right? You can always find more ways to anchor it in Muna. But then you're getting that 3/3/3 power after you've let it kind of build up for a couple of noons, and you get it for 2 turns instead. That's quite a bit better.
Yeah, that's very potent. And the extra cost is well worth anchoring it. There's already a couple cards where they have the, like, when enter, you can pay 1 to anchor it. And I've never seen anyone play any of those cards without the intent to anchor it. So perfectly fine here. And like I said, the 3/3/3, now it's anchored. It has a hand cost of 1, which means a lot of the other anchor are 3 or less. So you're able to continually anchor it. It just seems good.
Yeah, there's a couple of like just basic, very basic Muna interactions, but I think like it's worth pointing out the way that our costs work and everything, because I think it works out really nicely with this Bumblebeet. If you play it turn 1, right, and then you just get that whatever little bonus, maybe it helps you steal a side when you see the opponent commit 3 mana to play something on one side, then you can put the Bumblebeet on the other and do something else with the other 2. Perhaps actually this is a plant, so you could actually even play Bountiful Meadow on this turn and then use that to play the Bumblebeet, which is that's a pretty strong turn 1 to get set up that way. And then the next turn it gains 1 boost that noon, and then the turn after it gains 1 more boost. So at that turn you're at typically 5 mana. You could be at more. We're in Muna, who knows? But you could be at 5 mana at that point. Pay 3 for this, and then you have 2 resources available, which gives you access to a lot of pretty nice options. You can simply nurture and get some more boosts out here on your already anchored character now, which is going to sit there for then a couple of turns, potentially be 4/4/4, 5/5/5, something. Even if you're playing Tasia and Naura, this could actually be even better each time you do it too, getting that extra boost. I feel like those numbers work out pretty nicely for it. Well, remember too, like we can get uniques of this that might have some more interesting abilities.
Yes, uniques. Always the wild card.
Yeah. The other thing I really like about this is that it's one thing to play it, and then get the 1/1/1. But one thing I look for, because I like to play a lot of Argent and Spike decks in particular. I have a lot of fun, just resupplying with stuff all the time. So I've been playing a lot of Frozen Delivery and Harvest type effects to get my resupplies to just, churn through and find new things. So I can usually use those to discard specifically to Argent and Spike. But in this case, just being able to suddenly find, this card like this and go, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to just hold on to that now, because a couple of turns later, it'll grow and mature and then be this stronger unit is a pretty nice thing when I'm especially starting the game with some of those like early harvests, just trying to, what's my game plan going to look like here? I just want to start harvesting and see.
For sure. And one thing to note too, on a much more thematic level, I like this effect on a plant character, because it's kind of like you're planting it back in the ground and letting it grow and get bigger, and then taking it back out when you're ready.
Yeah, I love that. The theme is really cool. Now let's look at the final rare out of faction version, which is Bumblebeet in Ortis. So Bumblebeet in Ortis actually keeps the same abilities as the rare Bumblebeet. So this is a one of these out of faction versions where it copies the rare instead of the common. But the change here is the constant ability in reserve. Instead of just being an at noon trigger, it's when another character joins your expeditions, it gets 1 boost to a maximum of 2. And that's kind of neat, because the Muna one, we're trying to, hold on for a couple of turns before we replay it. The Ortis one, it can be there just for 1 more turn, and then you can play out an Ortis Cadets, anything that just puts itself and a token into play, and suddenly you've built this thing up immediately to its 3/3/3 body, and this does something that Ortis rarely does, which is it has anchored.
Yeah, neat. I was assuming it wouldn't have anchored, being like transferring to Ortis, but it does have anchored, which is very potent, especially when it's probably going to be a 3/3/3 when it comes back in. And like you said, especially if you're playing Sigismar, you're already going to get a free body at the first turn after it's down in reserve. So that gets 1, and then you play something, that's its second one, and then you could bring it out the next turn as a 3/3/3, which seems pretty sick, if you ask me.
I also, like anytime we see something out of faction like this, we see anchored, I think about, well, what does this faction do that's kind of interesting with that? And like Ortis Monolith, anyone, so like just going to start putting free boost counters on everybody. Well, let's throw anchored things in the mix and get more and more value out of that. And having an anchored thing kind of gives you an opportunity to actually potentially play landmarks without giving up quite as much ground too. So I feel like there's a lot of like kind of either side of the interaction. It's an interesting card. You definitely want to build, I think, your Ortis deck with effects like this in mind, this would be one of these rares it's probably not the only instance of like an anchoring card in your Ortis deck that's built to do this, right? Yeah, I mean, interesting. I definitely want to play with this. Jordan, what do you think overall of Bumblebeet?
I like Bumblebeet, and I'm also, because I like the art, I'm very excited to see what the unique art looks like for Bumblebeet.
Yeah.
But I think this is a solid card in both the factions that it's in, and I could definitely see it being played in a lot of decks. It's a 1-drop, so it always has a place in any deck, but like we've been saying, it also scales up throughout the turns to be something a little bit bigger when you need that little bit extra heft in the lanes.
Yeah. Yep, very exciting. So thank you, Jordan, for joining me for the spoiler. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Bumblebeet. Is this a card you're going to start playing in your Muna decks, or are you just going to order on the marketplace a whole bunch of foilers because it is so cute and you have to look at it more? That's a reasonable take as well. Whispers from the Maze releases June 6th, 2025. So make sure you hit up your LGS if you want to pick some up. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.